Yeah, go ahead.
As you know, 53,000 Hispanics turn 18 years of age in the country every month. Born in the United States of voting age, 54 million plus Hispanics.
Right.
Many feel that what you said when you said that the people across the border are rapists and murderers.
No. We're talking about illegal immigration, and everybody understands it. And you know what? That's a typical case. Wait. That's a typical case of the press with misinterpretation. They take a half a sentence. They take a half a sentence. By the way, they take a half a sentence and they take a quarter of a sentence. They put it all together. It's a typical thing. And you're with Telemundo, and Telemundo should be ashamed. And I'll tell you something. What's really going to be fun? I'm right now suing Univision for $500 million. And I want to tell you, we're going to win a lot of money because of what they do. So I want to just, again, I want to thank you. No, you're finished. You've obviously been proven to finish. I just want to thank, again, because this is about you. It's not about me. Law enforcement, Border Patrol, all of you folks for being here, because this was actually an extra stop, a special stop. I heard you were here. I wanted to come and see you, and thank you. We love you, man. We love you. Thank you all very much. Thank you. Thank you to the Border Patrol and to law enforcement. Thank you.
The Republican infighting took a particularly dangerous tone because it wasn't just about infighting anymore. It was about taking our country back with the resurrection of the Tea Party, and it was very, very racial, whether any of them will admit it or not.
Racial, absolutely. I will not sit here and allow you to say that. The Tea Party came in. There were 63 people who came in 2010 because the government grew too much. Because no, I will not allow people to sit here and say there's a racial aspect to it. That is absolutely.
Okay, actually, all right, here to debate this, the Blaze.com radio host and contributor Dana Loesch and radio talk show host Richard Fowler. Richard, give me an example. Give Dana and I an example, and if you have one, I would think Dana and I will condemn it and we'll say, absolutely, we don't support it. I'm a Tea Party member. Dana is. Give me an example where this has happened.
Well, Sean, I'm happy that you want to condemn it because I think you're completely right. I don't think the Tea Party is a race. I don't think the Tea Party movement itself is racist. I think the Tea Party has been a home for racism and for people that believe in racist ideology and racist policies
now
like
give me the
neo-Nazis.
specifics. I'm waiting for the specifics. Dana's waiting patiently for the specifics.
A couple years ago when they passed the Healthcare Reform Act, CBC members, this was reported by the AP, CBC members were walking out, or Congressional Black Caucus members were walking out of the Capitol. They were called the N-word, they were spit upon, they were jeered.
Andrew Breitbart offered $100,000 for any evidence to back that claim up, and it didn't exist.
The AP reported it. There was an AP reporter there that reported it, Sean.
The mainstream media, Dana, can get it wrong?
Yeah, well, Richard's omitting the fact that Emanuel Cleaver, who, by the way, is a lawmaker from my home state of Missouri, actually backpedaled on some of that, which was reported, as he's quoting, by the Associated Press. Not to mention, there were a sea of webcams there. There were a sea of iPhone cameras and handheld cameras, and not a single one of those cameras, in an era where we have such digital technology and we're able to capture absolutely everything, not a single one of those cameras, Sean, as you know, captured anything that any of these CBC members were alleging, and then of course you had Cleaver backpedaling as well. So let's report the full scope of the story and not just rely on some, oh, well, the AP said. Well, the AP also said this too.
Richard, you just said that it was racial in some regard. The Tea Party's racial. I wouldn't be a part of a group that was racial. Dana wouldn't be a part of a group that's racial. So tell me, give me examples and help me out here.
That's not what I said, Sean. I said the Tea Party as a movement is not racist. I'm not saying the Tea Party is racist. What I'm saying is the Tea Party has become a bastion for racism and racist individuals.
A bastion means there's a lot of examples.
But you're saying the same thing. It's semantics. You're saying the same thing.
It's not semantics at all. It is not semantics at all. There are people who are noted neo-Nazis, people who are noted. Who are, for example, Stormfront.com, who they profess to be part of the Tea Party, they're anti-Semitic, they're homophobic, they're racist, and I can go on and on about how they do not like African Americans.
We're going around in a circle, Richard. I think this is. Give us examples. Yeah, we're on the same page.
I just gave you an example. Stormfront.com.
I've never heard of them.
Organization.
Who are they?
It's an organization that professes to be part of the Tea Party, and they actually do not like African Americans.
The Black Panthers profess to be part of the progressive movement. So do you? Or do you
no, wait a second. Now let's be very clear.
Oh, wait a minute. No. Let's be clear. It's the same thing. So I'm not even familiar with the group that you mentioned, but you're saying that the Tea Party is racist. Richard, you're saying that the Tea Party is racist.
Dana,
We've asked for a number of examples.
Let me be very clear. The stereotype that exists.
Guys, one at a time.
Just come out with it.
Dana, you finish, then Richard. Go ahead.
Richard, all we're asking for is an example. You keep saying, well, such and such group. Okay, well, show me where Tea Partiers have behaved in a racist fashion.
I just pointed to their website, but that's beyond the point.
No, I need an example. I don't know who this group
Dana,
is.
The stereotype that exists in the United States is the Tea Party is a racist organization. I'm not saying it's true. I'm not saying it's false. I'm saying that is the stereotype. And in order to dispel the stereotype, what has to happen is individuals like yourself and Sean, who are upright, standing, card-carrying Tea Party members, have to go out and say, we reject all instances of racism that happen at Tea Party events.
We've already said that.
When people compare the president, when people tell the president to go back home to Kenya, when people are looking for the president's birth certificate, or people are waving the Confederate flag in front of the White House, that is what you would call racism.
Berg, that came from your side.
But I've been out here making sure that I express my support for Mr. Donald J. Trump. And I'm fighting back against people like Black Lives Matter, which CNN supports, along with the Hillary Clinton Foundation and the Bill Clinton Foundation, the traitors to this country.
What do you think about the fact that white supremacists support Trump?
It doesn't matter. That's the right to free speech. I'm sick of this race and divide, and CNN is perfect at doing that. It's always divide and conquer. People have the right to choose whatever they want. What the hell has that got to do with Donald Trump? He's not a racist. I'm sick of that. It's a scam, and I know it's not going to get on CNN. We're sick of you media.
What do you think about what he just said to you? That's maybe not a fair question to ask, and you're just trying to associate Trump with racism.
He was never called racist before he started running against the Democratic Party.
I mean, is that a fair question to ask? Are you saying that Trump is racist because some racist guy supports him?
I'm just here doing my job.
Well, but that was your question.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
At least answer it.
Don't backpedal now.
Yes, because Trump is not a racist. And again, it's the media who gives us those perceptions. You see, because the Democratic Party, they always control the black people. It's a plantation. As long as they're on the mammary gland of America, getting their food stamps, getting their welfare, and they're not dreaming for the stars. They're not, and society is killing that dream. They're killing that dream by this globalism. Hell with globalism. Because globalism takes away America's wealth.
Do Black Panthers support Obama, sir? CNN. Do Black Panthers support Obama?
Thanks a lot for talking.
You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Good luck out there.
Do Black Panthers support Obama, sir?
With me now, Charles Blow, the New York Times columnist and CNN political commentator and CNN contributor and host of the Ben Ferguson Show. Ben Ferguson, welcome to both of you. Ben Ferguson, let me start with you. What is the issue here? Is it that because two of the three alleged killers here were black, therefore it must be a race crime?
Hard questions. Why do I have to?
Online, and we found from some of these tweets, which was that he said he didn't like white people and he was planning on going out and killing people, and that would be what many would say is a hate crime. And if we have hate crime legislation, then it should be used appropriately when someone goes out to kill someone of another race based on their race. And at least for one of these young men, there was a motivation there through his own words, not through speculation, that he did not like anyone that was white. And we see this also happen with a lot of gang initiations in this country, where a lot of gang members who happen to be of one race will go out and purposely attack someone of another race. And if you're going to have hate crime legislation, you should do that.
Ben. But Ben, you are missing one key ingredient in this story, aren't you? One of the three was white. So how does that work with your, this is a one-race gang?
I just said one of the gang is one. I said at least one of them is white, motivated by race.
Right, but, well, yes, but is there actual evidence that he set out deliberately to kill a white person?
I think there's a lot of evidence if you look at what he said in his own words online.
I've not seen anything that says that.
I've seen him. You should look at it because it said he doesn't like white people and they're creepy. That's one of the multiple quotes.
I've read it. What I haven't read is the inference you're putting on this, that he set out to deliberately kill a white person, because that's not what it says. Charles Blow, let me bring you in here. I mean, there is an argument, and you know what the argument is. It's the one Glenn Beck and others have put forward today, that the media deliberately underplayed this story of the Australian student, which I think is ridiculous because we led on it, for example, on the night that it happened. But they underplayed it simply because he was white and two of the killers, alleged killers, were black. What is your reaction?
Well, first, the idea that the media does not include people like Glenn Beck is ridiculous. I think that we often get caught up in this idea that the media is somehow separate and apart from people in one persuasion, and the media becomes everybody who doesn't agree with them. I have heard quite a bit about this story. I think that most people are saddened by this story, that people, you know, that our hearts go out to the young man who was killed, his family, and his loved ones. But I think when when we try to figure out what is in a person's state of mind at the point that a crime happens, it gets tricky because we don't know. What we know about bias is that it is not always constant and it has to be present at the time of the crime. And what we'll have to do is to see when we go to trial if they can suss out whether or not the bias was present at the time of the crime. It does not bode well. I will agree, however, that that at least one of the people who is suspected of committing this crime has articulated that he has these sorts of biases. That is not part of the record.
See, Ben Ferguson, here's the point I would make. Ben, let me just say to you, if it turns out that there is concrete evidence that one or two of the black suspects here deliberately targeted a young white man to assassinate, then I will be the first to say this is absolutely disgusting and outrageous, as I've been saying since I first heard about this case anyway. I don't understand why there has to be this sort of ludicrous in-media squabbling over this kind of issue, when obviously we're all outraged by it.
But let me say this, Piers. The prime example of what I'm talking about, what I think there is a double standard when we're dealing with issues of race, is how much caution we just showed towards these young men, but we did not show towards George Zimmerman when there was a circumstance where there was actually an altercation. This was just absolute, cold-blooded, vicious, evil murder. But when there was another situation with altercation, none of this caution and this calm that we just witnessed wasn't there with that case. And that is the double standard when there are two different races and two crimes committed by two different races.
I don't agree
with that. And I think there's been universal outrage. And you mentioned George Zimmerman. Here's what I'm also outraged by. Let's look at this. This is George Zimmerman today down at the gun store. He's after new guns. He wants a tactical shotgun. There he is. Smiling away.
He's a free... But see, this is my point.
I mean,
you still want to convict him. Hold on. Here's
Wait a minute, Ben Ferguson. Wait a minute, Ben. Let Charles Blow have the first say. I'll come back to you afterwards. Charles Blow, I find this offensive. I don't want to see George Zimmerman smiling in a gun store as he's preparing to buy more guns.
Right. Well, first, I want to go back and say I think that trying to draw direct parallels between the Trayvon Martin case and this case is actually a disgusting kind of tack to take. I think that those are two separate cases with two very different sets of circumstances. And in fact, what this particular case shows us is how the system of justice is actually supposed to work, and how people thought that it would have worked in the Trayvon Martin case as well. That something really horrible happens, and we figure out who did it, and we immediately take those people into custody. And on Tuesday, they had a charge, and you set a court date, and you say that we're going to let the justice system figure out what the facts are. That is not what happened in the Trayvon Martin case. It is a very different set of circumstances. I'm sorry, I let you speak. I let you speak. No, I will not give the time. I let you speak. What I'm telling you is that these are very different cases, and what if the Trayvon Martin situation had actually happened in the same way that this case happened, you would have had no outrage. But the fact that they were so different.
But it didn't happen that way. All right, now I'm going to respond, okay?
Please do.
When you look at the difference in these two cases, and this is where you're having a very selective memory because you think George Zimmerman is guilty still, even though a jury of his peers found him innocent, and you still don't want to treat him as a free, innocent man now. Let me finish.
You know what I think? You can't tell me what I think.
Let me finish. Hold on.
I'm not going to let you finish telling me what I think.
I'm going to finish the same way that you would not. All right, now let me finish.
Go for it.
My point is this.
Tell the truth.
There was a justice system. You just didn't like how it worked.
How do you know that?
You didn't like the police and how they investigated it. You didn't like the outcome. They didn't charge him with a crime. And so, therefore, you decided that as an American who wasn't there that night, who didn't investigate it, that you would be against George Zimmerman, even though there was, in fact, people that were doing their job. You just didn't like how they did their job.
No.
There's a big difference in the...
If you will, that ensued over the past 2 days. I'm going to play some of what the president said and then some of the response. Take a listen.
You know, there's been talk about should we convene a conversation on race. I haven't seen that be particularly productive when politicians try to organize conversations. They end up being stilted and politicized.
I appreciate and applaud the fact that the president did finally show up. But this town has been spinning a story that's not altogether true. He did not walk to the podium for an impromptu address to the nation. He was pushed to that podium.
Was he? Was President Obama, was he pushed to the podium?
If you listen to the president's statement, clearly the president talked about personal experiences, talked about their need of going beyond conversation. Yeah. I helped organize a lot of the outrage around this. None of it was focused at pushing the president. It was pushing legislation and pushing the criminal justice system. A lot of people have personal things no matter what with the president. I get that. But let's not do that at the expense of this family. We did not need the president to preempt the Justice Department. So those that are opposed to this can say, oh, they're not doing an objective federal investigation. They're being ordered by the president because of politics. And sometime in our personal grievances with each other, we could sacrifice justice for the family. So I hope everyone will be a little careful here.
Now, I don't understand your general view, though. Your general view is, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the police are hunting down black people? Is that what your belief is?
Who said that?
I'm just asking.
When did I say that?
I'm just asking, is that your belief?
No, my belief is that there's an epidemic in this country that has to be acknowledged.
What is the epidemic?
That there is a distrust between the police departments in this country and communities of color. And that distrust is leading to many deaths.
All right, so there's an epidemic of distrust.
Yes.
Okay. Now, would you say that's driven by what? What is the distrust?
Bad policing.
And in what way?
There's a lack of community policing. Police officers are only in their cars in these communities. They do not get out of the car.
Not here in New York City.
Absolutely. No. Yeah. Well, we have a much different police policy in this city than do in Ferguson, Missouri.
All right.
A very different police policy.
So you say it's distrust. Do you distrust, Alfonso, do you distrust the cops out in Los Angeles?
No, I don't think I have that profound case of distrust as much as the one they're talking about. And, I'm not sure how far do we want to take this? Now we're getting the suggestion that, police officers are going to, they're going to get a bunch of federal money to put cameras on them. And I'm not sure if that's really going to help the situation to deal with the trust issue. If we're going to go by what we see on camera, we watched what Michael Brown did on camera. We saw the kind of demeanor
we had him in the convenience store, but we didn't have him getting shot. Now, you've been a critic of Michael Brown, the deceased. You've been a critic of him, right?
Mm-hmm. I hate to be a critic of him. It's a tragedy what happened to him. But yes, this kind of behavior, if we're looking for cops to behave a certain way, maybe one of the ways that you change a cop's behavior is to change your own.
And you say to that Michael Brown, we now know, all right, was aggressive in this case. He was under the influence of marijuana. The grand jury believed that he was actively threatening the police officer. Do you believe Michael Brown's a hero of some sort?
No, Michael Brown's a victim.
You think he's a victim?
100%.
He didn't bring any of that.
We don't know. Let's go to trial and let's put witnesses on the stand.
But the grand jury knows because they ruled.
The grand jury was presented a
decided,
set of facts by a prosecutor who didn't want to indict Darren Wilson.
Are you aware of any evidence that was not presented to the grand jury?
Yes, the law that is unconstitutional, 1985, that a police officer could shoot a fleeing suspect. They presented that to the case, and they said to the grand jury.
But the evidence is that Mr. Brown was coming back toward the officer.
Yeah, and then you could shoot him if he's fleeing away from him. That's unconstitutional.
No, I just told you the evidence is he was coming back toward him.
What evidence? How do you know there's
the evidence that was presented to the grand jury?
We've seen the evidence.
Yes, we have. We read the transcripts.
We saw the evidence the evidence the prosecutor presented to the grand jury. Let's take this to trial. Let's put Darren Wilson on the witness stand and put him on
you don't believe in the grand jury system?
Of course I do. I don't believe that prosecutor presented a fair case to the family.
Okay. I'm going to give you the last word, Mr. Rachel. You're different than most African American. Well, I shouldn't say most, but many. What Charles Barkley said, do you subscribe to that?
Hey, I may not be able to play basketball, but I'll be on Barkley's team for that one.
and why do you believe that he was correct in that statement?
He's correct in the statement in the sense of, look, you know, cops have a job to do. I don't think a cop, you know, really they got better things to do than to go around harassing people and pick out people just because of their skin color. They don't want no trouble. They want to do their jobs. They want to go home to their families. You know, and as far as it is yes, it's correct. We would have a lot of chaos if it wasn't for the police. I know all police ain't bad, just like all blacks ain't bad. So, you know, we got to be fair as far as that goes. I think there's a lot more good cops than bad cops.
All right.